It's like that one. It's like that one. That was a little weird. Sorry, my bad. That's what I get for leaving the YouTube stream up while I have StreamYard going. Hey, good afternoon. Welcome to another Sunday edition of the Rational Male. Today we're going to be talking about TikTok, OnlyFans, and open hypergamy today. There is a difference. There we go. Much better. Sorry, guys. I promise next time I'll make sure that the YouTube feed is closed. We get doubled up. That's for Ned's with me today. He is actually. He's not in his regular spot. He's just around the corner here. Oh, yes. You are welcome. Thank you very much. All right. That's enough of that. Well, let me begin by saying that I am pretty exhausted today. If you've been following my my Twitter feed, you'll understand why I'm exhausted today. I finished up doing Rule 0 yesterday, and that was actually a very good show. That's a little better. I was usually what happens after I go to after I go through the Rule 0 show, and then sort of hand it off to John, and John takes it from there, and usually goes and does his Hot Dude Army show, his whatever his Hot Dude Hour comes after that. And so usually what I do is then I sort of get myself ready, do a few things. Usually Saturdays are my get things done day. And sometimes I go to band practice. I go to rehearsal. I do play. I am one guitarist of two in a band that's here in Reno, Nevada. And that rehearsal space that rehearsal space that I go to is over in what we call the North Valleys up here, if anybody's familiar with the Reno area. And so I went in, and we don't have any windows in the rehearsal studio. It's all I've actually done videos from inside the studio. Well, I've done one anyways, from inside the studio. And so we were in there, just doing our thing, kind of rehearsing and doing playing till we were about 2.5 hours, maybe 3 hours in. And I come back out, it smells like smoke. And I don't usually check my messages. There's two places I'd never check my text messages. Well, I should say three places. I never take my cell phone when I'm walking with the dogs, unless I am like someplace strange. Like if I'm just out here in the back, then I, in the desert here, I'll usually leave my cell phone home. At the gym, I always leave it in the car, or else, like sometimes I usually ride my mountain bike to the gym, and then I ride back. And then the other place I don't take it is, or I don't really respond to it all that much, is in the rehearsal studio, because I can't hear it. I can't really pay attention to it, so I don't have it going on. So I check my messages as I'm coming out, loading up, and getting ready to go back home. And I've got messages from friends of mine saying, "Can you come help me?" And I'm like, "Why?" And they're like, "Because of the evacuation notice." They were asking me, like, "Do you have your trailer hitch on the back of your truck?" And I'm like, "Yeah, still, like I left it on there from, carrying my sleds around from last season." And they needed help with some trailers, horse trailers and some other things. And I was like, "Why?" And then they're like, "Look to the northeast." And I look up, and this is kind of, these are some good I didn't take these shots, but these are some really interesting shots. Let me share my screen with you so you guys can understand what I've been sort of, it's not this application window. There we go. So this is the Loyola fire. We have a 20,000 acre wildfire. Let's just say, I guess it would be a brush fire too, but wildfire that was responsible for a flaming tornado yesterday. And so needless to say, I've been a little preoccupied with this. Right now, like this morning was great because the prevailing winds were taking this smoke up to the northeast. So it was going up towards, like, I live in Nevada, and in the northern part of Nevada. If you know where Nevada is in the United States, it's sort of that crook in Nevada, like where Lake Tahoe is, just a little above that. And so they're blowing more towards like Idaho and Boise, and they got a lot of this yesterday, and they got a lot of the smoke. Now we're getting the smoke. So right now, if you hear the wind outside, sometimes the mic will pick up the wind. It's usually pretty windy here in the desert anyways. But yeah, so there's a lot of smoke in the air, and it's blowing this way now. It was this morning, it was going north. Now it's decided to come into the basin. So I can smell the smoke inside my house right now. And yeah, so it's been pretty intense, and it was a very intense last 24 hours. So there you have it. So if I'm a little low energy today, you'll understand why. When I was living about 2 years ago now, maybe 2.5 years ago, 3 years ago, I was down. I've always lived. I've lived in two places: Southern California and Northern Nevada. Those are the two places I've lived the most. I lived in Orlando for about 8.5 years as well. So those are the three main places that I live. And when I've been in Nevada, if you live in rural Nevada, you're probably you're going to get drafted into being sort of a volunteer fire person if firemen, let's just say, because there are very few there are hardly any volunteer fire women, let's just say. And because we get this stuff all the time, and August tends to be our fire season. So there you have it. Yeah, thank you. So that said, that was my very long way of saying that today's show is actually going to be a short show, because I could get a call here. I don't know if I will. It got really close. 395 is the main thoroughfare that goes through. 580 and 395 is basically the same thing, but it goes through where I live, and it got closed yesterday because a fire line broke over the top of 395 yesterday. We had, like I said, fire tornadoes, like flaming columns of flame, which is really weird. It's so big, it's creating its own weather systems right now. So it's really kind of intense. So there you have it. Today's topic, we're going to talk about TikTok and OnlyFans and open hypergamy, and how all three of those elements, let's say, sort of create the perfect storm. It's the trifecta of, I would say, what's becoming or has become the global sexual marketplace right now. I know people are going to ask me about this, so I'll just cover this really quickly. A lot of people were saying, because I know, Rich Cooper just did a follow-up video to the Tomi Lahren thing that I did a week and a half ago. Yeah. And that was a big deal. A lot of people are still watching that video that I did, which was, thank you for watching. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for doing what you do and following this channel. We're up to 55,000 subs now and growing still. And I think a big part of that is being able to, sort of be agile and hit on those topics when they hit. And a lot of people were looking at my Tomi Lahren video. I had some people hit me up on email and on my social media accounts who I never expected would try to hit me up for talking about Tomi Lahren and all of that. You guys already know I'm good friends with Aubrey Huff, but I had some other people asking me about Tomi Lahren and what my thoughts were on that, and if I wanted to come on particular shows, and I will probably go on them. The problem with like celebrity stuff like this is that it's only hot for 2 or 3 days, and then you move on to something else. It was like Will Smith was a big deal. I jumped on that, and a lot of other people jumped on it as well. And then sort of after a while, it gets sort of beat to death. So you kind of have to be, like I said, agile when it comes to those things. But she did a follow-up video to that. And this is kind of on, I shouldn't say it. This is kind of on topic today. So I'll just cover this really quickly. She did another follow-up video, sort of backpedaling from a lot of that rage. What I called it's like a dating or relationship, it's a relationship, but it's a dating rage quit It's a sexual marketplace rage quit. I was also wrong, and I think I mentioned this once before, is that I was wrong in that I said she was 27, and she was at the time when she did the video, and I did the breakdown of it. But she is now 28, which would explain why she was sort of in rage quit mode and did videos like that. I've said in the past that in this new order, really ever since, I'm going to say like 2005, certainly the last 15 years, when digital photography came into its own and everybody has a cell phone with probably a better camera, that unless you've got like a digital SLR, if you got a mirrorless camera or something very, high end, your camera is a pretty decent like phone. It's a pretty decent, in your phone, it's a pretty decent camera. So everybody's using those. You can, 1080p. By the way, today is in 1080p, in case you didn't realize. If it looks a little more clear today, it's because StreamYard has finally upped its game, let's say. And I got no complaints against StreamYard. I'm just saying it's about time, but thank you for doing it, because up until about 2 weeks ago, you were only able to do it in 720p. So there you have it. But everybody has a cell phone. Everyone is taking pictures. Everyone has a social media account. Everybody has Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, OnlyFans, blah, 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 blah. And that creates a digital footprint. And what I think is funny is there's a lot of people, Tommy Lahren included, myself included, really, because I'm Generation X. So even boomers, Generation X, Y, whatever, all the way up to, I don't know, Zillennials or Z or what, Zoomers right now. We're still kind of stuck in this old order way of thinking that, well, oh my gosh, I put something online. Now I've got to go backpedal and try to cover that up or put a Band-Aid on it. Because I think that once everybody sort of came out against Tommy Lahren, they're just like, look, this is a feminist. This is how a feminist talk. But I love men. And that's exactly what she was saying. She's got a new Instagram video, and Rich Cooper was just doing a breakdown of it about 45 minutes ago, maybe an hour ago. And so I was looking at that, and people were asking me, are you going to talk about this today? And I'm like, no, not really, not directly anyways, because I don't know what else to say. If the first video wasn't enough for you to sort of get an idea of what Tommy Lahren's really about, and I've said this before, like I remember when she was talking about she got in a lot of trouble because everybody thought she was this sort of dyed-in-the-wool conservative, and she was going to be sort of the heir apparent to Ann Coulter or Michelle Malkin or whatever. Like I'm not saying that they're on their way out, but they will at some point, or sort of the crown or the mantle has to be passed on at some stage. And I think she probably thought she was going to be that person, and then the sisterhood came out. Really, is what happened to her. Is everything that she was talking about in that video, everything she's talking about when she's talking about she's pro-life or pro-abortion. Well, I guess pro-abortion. I'm going to say pro-abortion. I realize that that's probably not politically correct, but Tommy Lahren is pro-abortion, and she'll say pro-choice, whatever. I don't care. I've said this before, is that abortion is the ultimate expression of hypergamy. And women, the sisterhood, will fight tooth and nail to ensure that fail-safe against bad hypergamous decisions remains safe, responsible, right? But now we're celebrating it. I'm not saying that Tommy Lahren would celebrate abortion, but I think that she is still kind of like locked into the narrative of the sisterhood. So she served as a very good example of how feminism has worked its way into sort of conservative circles or conservative thought. And I watched what Rich was doing. Rich, if you're watching, thank you for doing that, because it saved me the trouble of having to do it. And so I'm watching this and watching, Rich do the breakdown of it. I'm like, why bother? Why even make a video of this? She's like, she's trying to backpedal and say, I don't really hate men. It's like, well, you said at least on 2, maybe 3 different instances during the original video that men are trash. Men are boys, men are this, men are whatever. And again, it comes back to authority, responsibility versus authority. Every single conservative woman, every woman who says that she is red-pilled, every woman who has, I love men and I want them to do better, that do better What that says to me is that you are buying into the narrative that men need to, like the solution to men's problems today, which we're going to get into in this show. The solution is for them to take on more responsibility. And men are not taking on responsibility because there's no upside. And I mentioned that during the original video. So going back over this again really serves no purpose because she said what she said. It's that's her digital footprint. What do you think people are going to look at? And like, if we're talking about Tomi Lahren in the next like 3 to 6 months, which video are they going to look at? Are they going to look at the follow-up where she's like, I didn't really say that. I'm sorry, you're so butthurt. You know, that kind of stuff. Is that the one we're going to look at? Or are we going to look at the first one where that's her rage quit video? I think that's the one we're going to be looking at. So I didn't see really any point to that, but it does give us a nice segue into today's topic, because when she is talking about how men need to do better, how, I'm interested in men, not boys. That we've been hearing that same mantra for a very long time, even prior to the sexual revolution. We've been hearing that mantra, particularly from a conservative mind. I want a real man. I want a man who takes care of his. Yeah, duh. What woman doesn't? It's not like you're some special generation of women that have this, special affinity and attraction for guys who are like real men's men. No. Women, that's what women are after. They want a guy who can take care of business. They want a guy who's going to provide long-term security. That's why when she gets to be 28 years old, she's in rage quit mode because she's frustrated with the global sexual marketplace. This is a generation of old order thinkers who are struggling with a new order way of dating and a new order way of thinking about dating, right? Remember that I have to explain this to you because this is really the start of today's topic, which is open hypergamy. Now, I have done, if you go and you look up hypergamy on Google, you'll probably find my name somewhere in at least the first page of returns. I don't think anybody has done more analysis of hypergamy as a concept than Rollo Tomassi has done. And I've been doing this really since day one. Since like 2002, I have been talking about hypergamy, and I get run up the flagpole every damn time I talk about it. I can't even utter the word hypergamy. And yes, I know I used to say it hypergamy, right? Or hypergamy, whatever. I got run up the flagpole for even like mispronouncing it because people say, oh no, it's not hypergamy. Or hypergamy. It's hypergamy. Okay, well, let's talk about the actual thing. Let's talk about what it is. And then, of course, what people do is they say, well, it doesn't really mean what you think it means. That's a social science term that was created back in the 1950s when social scientists were studying the caste system in ancient India all the way up to contemporary times. And it's the tendency for women to marry upward in socioeconomic class. Thank you, Dr. Mediocre. Right. I understand that. That's where the term comes from. Now, when I say, well, we need to take hypergamy and we need to turn it into something that expands the definition. It seemed like the best term to talk about it. Right. I could make up some like made up word. I could very easily do that. Sorry. I'm going to run over Ned. Ned's right behind me here. I could make up some made up word and say, okay, well, it's flibbity gibbet or whatever. I don't know. And people will go, oh, great. But for me to even say that, people go, well, that's just something you made up. Well, if I go and I talk about hypergamy and I expand the definition to include women's, let's say, natural, innate, evolved proclivity to want to, let's use it as a term for their mating strategy, their innate, evolved mating strategy from the time we were on the savannas in, hunter-gatherer tribes up to where we are right now. Just because I expanded that definition, everybody loses their minds. Well, you don't have a PhD. You don't get to turn it into a yes, I do. Yes, I do. Because I'm the one talking about it. I'm the one that's like saying, hey, maybe we should think about it in these terms. And now, of course, it's become something of a standard, I think, certainly in the manosphere, MGTOW circles, doomers, whatever. And I can remember when people were throwing rocks at me because I was trying to expand the definition. And then one fine day, Dr. Jordan Peterson went on Joe Rogan's show and he started talking about hypergamy. And he's talked about it since. He's been on his speaking tour way back in 2017, 2018, and he referred to hypergamy. And he referred to it in the expanded sense. It wasn't about just socioeconomic class or marrying up. It was about women wanting to find the best of the best, like quality over quantity as a mating strategy per se. And even now, evolutionary psychologists have to sort of recognize the opened, broadened definition of it. So yes, I do get to do that. And just because, somebody with a credential or some letters behind his name, because they're doing it now, suddenly it's real. Well, thank you very much. I can remember back in 2012 when people were just screaming at me because you're using it wrong. Screw you. No, I'm not using it wrong. You're just upset that what I'm using it for is unflattering to you. So that's the brief history of hypergamy. And I can remember when Jordan Peterson used it on Joe Rogan. Now, Jordan Peterson, of course, used it in the sense of the beta bucks side of it. Most people, because social scientists, evolutionary psychologists, clinical psychologists, because they're forced to recognize the term as something broader and bigger than it was originally, back in the 50s, created for. Because of that, now they're forced into using it in the broader terms, but they only use it according to whatever it is that sounds flattering to them. So now hypergamy is not alpha seed beta need, it's just beta need. And that's where, even Jordan Peterson making it into something that's all about, women need a good provider, and they're looking for a guy who's rich, and they're looking for a guy who can, who's a good father and and he's going to be generous, and he's going to be parentally invested, and all of these other fine adjectives that we throw in there, and at every step of the way avoids the alpha arousal, alpha seed side of the AFBB. I'm just going to use that as the term right now. That side of the equation, they don't want to talk about that because that's unflattering. Well, guess what we're going to talk about today? We're going to talk about that side of hypergamy. And when we talk about hypergamy, and I've done shows on this before, I know I'm not going to harp on it too much on this show, but I have to a little bit, because when I have written about this, and I've written dozens of essays, and it's in every single book, and it's going to be in book 4 too, how things work, and how, as far as our biological, our evolutionary imperatives, and our evolutionary mating strategies for women. Of course, it's hypergamy, alpha seed beta need, AFBB. I'll let you figure that one out for yourself if you haven't already done so. You can ask me questions about it later, when I can swear. You can ask me questions about it on my Patreon, YouTube, my private Patreon stuff, because there I can swear up a storm. I can actually use the terms in the way that they were supposed to. But hypergamy is two-sided. It's arousal and attraction. It's short-term sexual, it's breeding, it's genetic interest, it's the best, let's say, physical prowess, best dominance characteristics, those kinds of things that are arousing. And then, of course, there's the beta buck side, or the beta provisioning side. And that's, the beta need. It's provisioning, resource transfer, security, protection is another one. And protection kind of covers on both sides, I should say, because sometimes aspects of hypergamy cross over into the equation. The equation is this: alpha seed beta need. How do we balance the equation? How does a woman get the best of both of those things? So when I refer to hypergamous optimization or optimal hypergamy, that's what I mean, balancing that equation. And most women cannot do that. And certainly less so today than at any other time in history, because women don't even look for the best of those qualities in the same guy anymore. They'd love to get it if they could, but at certain times in their lives, when they are in, like for instance, when women are in their peak sexual market value years, right around 22, 23 years old, that's when they tend to prioritize the alpha seed side of hypergamy. When they get to the epiphany phase, that's when they start to prioritize the beta bucks, provisioning, protection, parental investment side. The mistake that a lot of, I think, well-meaning guys, but maybe not so well-meaning, like a lot of guys who are invested in certain ideologies, they tend to overestimate one or the other. So if you've got guys who are doom and gloom and like, I'll never find a date, I'll never get laid, those guys, they overemphasize the alpha seed side. For the guys who are sort of looking for that perfect quality woman and want to start a family and buy into all the stuff about, the epiphany phase and you buy into Tomi Lahren's, that's another great example. You buy into what her needs are. If you decide, hey, you know what? I like what she's saying. I want to make myself the best man I can be so I can, okay, Tomi, tell me what I need to do. Okay, here's the things you need to do. All those things, those are all the beta buck side of things right now. That's what she'll tell you. What she's really aroused by is like the alpha seed side, which of course is what Rich was talking about. I mentioned this on my my private chat on my my Patreon chat. And Rich sort of spilled the beans. I didn't know I could. I probably would have sooner. But Rich and I and John and a few of the other guys from Mural Zero have been privy to some inside information, let's just say, about Tomi Lahren's personal life. I didn't want to go TMZ. I didn't want to go the gossip route. That was another thing. Like, I don't care at this point. I think she's pretty much, dug her own grave, and I'm happy to let her fall back into it. So that's why I didn't really cover that up. But she is most definitely having that conflict that happens when women get to the epiphany phase. They still want the hot guy. They still will cheat on the fiance to get with the hot guy. But when it all blows up in their face, then it's men's fault for not living up to the standards, which she enumerated at least 6 of them and a lot more. And a demand, I shouldn't even say standards. Those are her list of demands. All of those demands are pretty much the beta buck side. And there's many more, but those 6 were certainly on the beta buck side of the hypergamous equation. And so what happens is guys will gross out on one side or the other. And sometimes maybe it's looks maxers, or maybe it's the guys who are just like getting in the gym and getting jacked and feeling, juicy AF, right? I'm going to channel my inner Robert Frank today. Go look him up. Robert Frank on he's on Instagram and he's on Twitter. I actually know the guy's pretty cool. Anyways, there's that side of it, those guys. And then there's the guys who also dwell on the alpha seed side, and they're thinking, oh my gosh, I'll never be that. I'll never measure up. I'm always going to be an 80% guy. I'm always going to be the beta male. I'm always going to be the 80, the guy who's never going to get anywhere. So the juice is not worth the squeeze. Look, here's Tomi Lahren. She, she's representative. She's the one, she speaks for all women, Western women today. No, not really. But if that feeds into your sort of self-flagellation or your masochistic sense of you'll never, you need an excuse not to do anything, you're probably dwelling on the alpha seed side of it. Then the opposite side is the guys who, want to do everything they possibly can because they think, for the beta buck side or the provisioning side, because they think that is what is the key to success. Jordan Peterson. Good example of that. In fact, in pretty much everything that I've ever heard from him, I'm not saying he's never talked about the alpha seed side, but he's certainly talked about beta need way more than anything else, and primarily because he's been stuck in the blue pill since he was a teenager, maybe even before a teenager. And again, this is not an indictment of him. I'm just saying this is what I hear from a guy like that. I hear this from guys who tend to be moral absolutists, guys who have really strong religious convictions, guys who want to buy into the, she's learned her lesson and she's had her fun, and now we're going to settle down and we're going to save the West with parental investment, provisioning, living the right life, getting right with God, getting right with the community, getting right with everything, and that's how we're going to work things out. And they tend to overplay the side of hypergamy that is the beta buck side, because that's something they can excel in some ways. Like if you have less talent, or you have less gifts, let's just say, or you have a lessened capacity for whatever reason, whether I wasn't born good looking, whatever. If you feel like you want to give up on that side, this is something that most guys will do. It's very common, and not just for this generation, for like my generation, for the boomer generation, for Generation Y, for every even the greatest generation, right? Guys have always done this, right? If they're not like super good looking, if they're not lucky with the ladies, if they're not naturals, what they end up doing is they tend to say, well, I might not be like that, but at least I got a solid job. At least I'm a good choice for the future. And any woman who is quality, any woman who has a brain cell in her head, she's going to look at me and say, well, he's a good, dependable, loyal dude. Well, that worked right up until about the mid 80s, if then, right? No, certainly by the late 90s, things were changing, and now things are a little bit different. So all of those qualities that used to be good for the long term, those only come into play once women have made their bed, have made the choices. Because for the most part, I think this is something that it's sort of like one of these unspoken things is women understand, I think innately, on some level of consciousness, they realize that when they get to be about 21, 22, 23, maybe 24 years old, somewhere in that stretch of those 4 years, that's their peak potential years. That's just what I say when guys get to be like 36, 37, 38 years old. Those are going to be your peak potential years, because it takes longer for men to mature into their maximum or their peak potential for sexual market value. And I think women innately get that. Most guys don't, because they're still trying to figure out how to get the stick into the hole kind of thing. Right. They're trying, again, because men mature, boys and men mature slower than women do. Like when women hit puberty, they hit it way faster than guys do. When men's voice finally cracks and they're hitting puberty, it happens biologically, realistically on planet Earth, it happens slower for guys than it does for women. And there's factors, social and, biological that influence that as well. So I think that it is a mistake, always a mistake, to focus too heavily on one side of the hypergamous equation or the other. Now, we talk about hypergamy today as if it's a given. We have we've always known this. No, we haven't. As a matter of fact, prior to, I'd say, the mid 2000s, prior to, let's just say 2004, 2005, if you go and you look up the term hypergamy as a trend, as something that a word or a term that people have been using, if you, I haven't looked at it in a while, but if you go and you look at, I think it's like Google Trends when they look for like search terms or tags or whatever. If you type in hypergamy into that sort of tracking, you will see that there's a sharp increase in the use of the word right around, I think 2008 maybe. But like back when I was a moderator at SoSuave, we talked about it, and I talked about it quite a bit because I was trying to like use it as a catch-all term, I think, for women's mating strategy. Of course, guys wanted to keep it ambiguous. And that was back when hypergamy was something that's a little bit more concealed. Even, I would say right up until about 2010, 2012, hypergamy, women's mating strategy, was only really openly discussed amongst other women and privately, like at a party or whatever. Or you would hear like women would say, well, there's men you want to take home to mom, and then there's men that you just never want to. Like they're the bad boys versus the jerks. We had that conversation as far back as 2003, 2002. And it was always this spectrum, right? There's the jerk on one end, like the borderline abusive jerk on one end, like just that women kept going back to. And then there was the nice guy, the doormat on the other end of the spectrum. So it's what I called the nice guy jerk spectrum. And for the most part, guys tended right up until about 2012, until like the red pills and manosphere sort of came into its own, right around 2012, 2013, was guys would say, well, I want to be a nice guy, or they would have a really tough time when I would talk about spinning plates, which of course is a term I picked up from Tom Likas, and then again something that I expanded. And really what spinning plates is just dating non-exclusively, which is what women do all the time. There was a book, a very famous book. It came out in the late 90s. It was called The Rules, and it was written by two women who are like multiple divorcees. And they'd gone on Phil Donahue's show, the talk show, Oprah for sure, other talk shows. I know they'd been on maybe they were on Fox News a few times. I can remember when Tucker Carlson was interviewing Dr. Helen Smith, who had put out a book called The Dating Strike, or Men on Strike, I think maybe that's what it was called. And Tucker Carlson was not the Tucker Carlson of now. That was a different Tucker Carlson. I remember going back because I had Pat Campbell. It was about, I think it was 2018 I think it was 2018 when Tucker Carlson started doing this series on his show. And it was about men disappearing or something, right? It was, the war on men, the war on masculinity. And again, what's the solution? Oh, it's always take more responsibility, man up, be who these women want you to be. And that's old order thinking. But he was listening or reading. I don't know if he read my book or whatever. He was being influenced by some elements in the manosphere enough for him to want to actually start parroting back some of the stuff I would hear on MRA sites, or I would hear, like I know he did an interview of Christina Hoff Sommers for a while. But that Tucker Carlson would never have in 100 years when he was on Fox and Friends would never have had the same opinion, I think, that he did when he was interviewing Dr. Helen Smith after her book came out. And Dr. Helen Smith, another woman, was pretty much laying out the landscape, I think, for what is now MGTOW. And she was saying, men are on strike. This is a marriage strike. And I remember talking with Dalrock back then. I said, it's not really a marriage strike. It's just guys, they're not like getting together and going, boycott marriage. Boy, not like now, right? Online maybe. But back then they weren't doing it. It was just simply a reaction to the sexual marketplace. It was a market reaction. And guys were starting to say, we were watching. This was really when the decline in marriage rates started to just take the nosedive to where it is right now. In 2019, marriage rates are at the lowest they have ever been since they started recording them back in like the mid 1800s or like 1860 or something like that. So when you look at how people's sort of opinions sort of change, I'm not going to say, I'm not going to say it's not earnest, like maybe Tucker actually, genuinely has an interest in this now, but he sure as hell didn't when it was in 2012. And I think one of the reasons why we like guys, particularly in the mainstream media, or guys who are at least in some way public figures in what would soon become the manosphere, or soon become famous, let's just say, they had different opinions. If you look at Mike Cernovich, if you look at the stuff that he was talking about back in 2009, and you talk and today he's talking about like, oh, I don't objectify women. Yes, we do, and yes, you do, and yes, you did. And had I the interest to go and look those tweets up and retweet them, I would do it, but it would just seem petty and stupid. But, who you were in 2019 and who you are in 2009, that's a big difference, right? Because things have changed. Like back then, you had nothing to lose. Now you have something to lose. Now you have something. Now you have some sort of reputation, or you think you have some kind of integrity that's been based on sort of upholding certain standards that you didn't worry about back then, because again, it was the Wild West, and we're still kind of in the Wild West, I think. But back prior to, let's say, 2004, all the way back to even prior to the sexual revolution, women wanted to keep their sexual strategies secret. It was there's a concept. It's an evolutionary concept, but it's an evocyte concept, an evobio concept. It's called concealed estrus, or concealed ovulation, I think is what it is. And if you think about it in terms of women concealing ovulation, if they're concealing like their reproductive like strategies, it used to be when women were dependent on men for security, protection, while at the same time trying to balance the hypergamous equation, it made better sense to keep it a secret. So that's why cuckoldry is such a big deal right now. Like we use cuck or cuckoldry as this insult or this invective right now. You're a cuck. You're an incel. Like you don't even know where the term came from. It just seems like funny, right? Well, the reason for cuckoldry is because that's part of women's mating strategy, and we're comfortable talking about it right now. When we talk about the war on paternity, when I start to get into statistics and the data about men and DNA tests, when I get into statistics for real, what I call proactive cuckoldry. There's reactive cuckoldry and there's or retroactive cuckoldry and there's proactive cuckoldry. Retroactive cuckoldry is single moms. Have sex with the hot alpha when you can. Have his kids. Get a guy. Get a chump. Get a beta in waiting when you get to your epiphany phase. It's exactly what Sheryl Sandberg has said over and over and over again. As a matter of fact, you know what? I don't think I have ever. Oops, sorry, my bad. I have ever read this particular bit on live on air. Let me see if I can pull this up for you. I have a post, and I don't know that maybe I put it in the. There we go. It's called Controlling Interest. I wrote this back in June of 2014. Now this quote is directly from Sheryl Sandberg's book, best-selling book. Sheryl Sandberg, if you don't know, she's still, I believe, the CEO or CFO or COO. I'm not sure. She's one of the top people at Facebook still. She wrote a book called Lean In, Women, Work, and the Will to Lead. Okay. This is what she said. And this is what her advice are for women. Okay. She said this: when looking for a life partner, my advice to women is to date them all. The bad boys, date them all. The bad boys, the cool boys, the commitment phobic boys, the crazy boys, but do not marry them. The things that make the bad boys sexy do not make them good husbands. When it comes time to settle down, when do you think that is? Find someone who wants an equal partner. Someone who thinks women should be smart, opinionated, and ambitious. Someone who values fairness and expects, or even better, wants to do his share in the home. Sound like anybody you know? These men exist, and trust me, over time, nothing is sexier. And that is Sheryl Sandberg from the Lean In book. I don't think I've ever read that on here before. So when I refer to Sandbergian hypergamy in my books or in my essays, this is exactly what I mean. That's the plan. The plan is to date the bad boys, the commitment phobic boys, the jerks, the guys, the hot alphas in the foam cannon party in Cancun. I was drunk, he was cute, and one thing led to another. That guy. But don't worry, when the time comes to settle down, then those guys, don't worry, ladies, there'll be a beta in waiting who wants to do his fair share. He wants an equal partnership. He wants an egalitarian marriage. He wants he's exactly the kind of guy that you would never have any sense of arousal for, but he's a perfect candidate for beta bucks. He's a perfect candidate for the opposite side, the balance of the hypergamous equation. At least that's the fantasy. That's what. Remember, this is 2014. Now, I had another essay that came out right before this, which is called Open Hypergamy, and I need to explain this to you first before we can get on to OnlyFans and TikTok and what I'm seeing going on those platforms now as well. So, what is open hypergamy? Prior to sexual revolution, but really right up until about 2000, let's say 2010, women were very secretive and very concealing of that strategy because it worked in their favor, that men were dumb. Remember when I tell you guys, like, women, it's in women's best interest to keep you stupid and keep you dumb, ignorant of women's sexual strategies until you get to about 30. And what most men will report, even the most beta guys, you can't be just like, dregs of the earth. I mean, like guys who are just average guys, they report this. And I know this because I've been collecting these guys' stories and talking to these guys and sort of advising these guys from 2002 right up to 2020. Every single time these guys get to about 30, 31, and suddenly all the women who didn't want to give them time of day, the guys who were their emotional tampons, those guys who were their emotional support, who were their friends, their LJBF friends, who have always been supportive, who was I'll always be there for you, baby. That kind of guy, that what I've called the betas in waiting. These are the guys who do everything by the book, do everything deductively, because they think that if they persevere and they hold out long enough, that they're going to hit pay dirt at some point. And they do. Sometimes they do. You'll never hear a more self-righteous blue pill beta guy than the guy who got to 29 or 30 and suddenly the girl of his dreams, the girl he knew back in high school, or the one that they kind of split up in college, and now suddenly she looked him up on his socials, and suddenly she's just, you know what, you were here all along. It's like that joke. It's like that episode of Friends where was it Ross and Rachel make a deal and they take a break, right? Or they break up, they split up, and it's like, okay, well, if we're both single when we get to be 30, let's make a promise that we'll get married then. Like, okay, so if I haven't met anybody better than you by the time I'm 30, because really think about it. If you're if a woman is in her 20, like she's 20, and then you get to 30, there's just a 10-year span there. Who has the most potential, most sexual potential to consolidate, to complete, let's say, their mating strategy? Is it men? Or is it men who mature way slower than women? Or is it women who hit their sexual market value peak at 22 and they have a much higher, I'm saying classically, have had a much higher, let's say, sexual selectivity than men do at that time, unless you're one of the 20%er guys, right? Usually it's women. And that deal, that arrangement, like, you wait for me, like that arrangement, I've never heard anything more horrifying with my red pill lens on. I've never heard anything worse. It's like Mrs. Doubtfire almost, like, oh, wait for me, baby. Or Mrs. Doubtfire, oh, it's so funny, you know, her ex is with Pierce Brosnan, and you know, and when you look at, it's like certain things in the past with your red pill lens and you see what they are now, or where we are now, and we can look at those in the past, we go, whoa, that was really, that's not funny. Wait for me is not funny. Mrs. Doubtfire is not funny. Those should have taught a lesson, but we were dumb. We didn't have the internet. We didn't have the communication that we have now. And so that was the plan. And that, again, a good illustration of keeping hypergamy secret, to keep it concealed. So it's a joke, ha ha ha, you know, wait for me when you're 30. Yeah, because that maximizes her mating strategy and it completely limits yours as a man, because it takes longer for men to mature into their peak potential. It takes longer for men to hit their stride. It takes longer for men to attain the maximum potential of things that would make him the maximum, you know, sexual selectivity. He's got a good job. He's still in good shape. He took care of himself. He made partner in the law firm. He finished his residency. Now he's a surgeon, whatever. Like he made something of himself. Women know this. I think innately women realize that it takes longer for men to mature into their peak potential than it will ever take for women. And they know that. And that's why you get little jokes like, oh, wait for me. No, what that joke is, stay stupid for me until you're 30. And then I'll marry you before you get smart, before you figure things out. So I'll tell you what, here's the deal. I will go and see if I can find the best guy that I can in the foam cannon party from the time I'm 21 until I'm 25. And then maybe I'll have his kids, maybe I won't. I'll have my fun. And then when you're 30 and you've made something of yourself and you're just entering into your ascension of your sexual market value peak years, that's why I call it the peak potential years right there. And I'm on my decline and you're on your incline. Let's hope that you're still stupid and you'll be a good provider for me. You're such a nice guy. You're going to, like, how many times have you heard this in the past anyways? You're such a nice guy. You deserve somebody better than me. You're such a nice guy. I'm sure any woman would be happy to have you, just not me. Like, people were like, I put this on here. Actually, let me just put it back up real quick. This was the thumbnail for today's show, right? I pulled this. This is actual text exchange. I just like separated the little exchange. It says, stop. I do care about you. I love you. I just love him more. Yeah, you do now. You do now. But when your options are limited, when your options are limited because of sexual market value declination, because your sexual market value is perishable, and it's perishable way faster than men if men make the most of themselves. I'm not saying, again, there is the burden of performance. Men have to do something. You have to actually, live up to some sort of potential. Now, I'm not saying her potential. I'm saying your personal potential. So whatever you want to do in life, you still have to have drive, ambition, passion, all those other great things. I'm not disqualifying that one bit. Just saying, what's your intent? Like, why are you doing what you're doing? So when I'm talking about those things, women want you to stay ignorant. They want you to stay stupid of hypergamy. They used to anyways, right up until about 2012, 2013. And that's when I started noticing a change. And that's when I wrote Open Hypergamy. You want to know where the term open hypergamy comes from. It comes from an essay that Rollo Tomassi, this guy, wrote back in 2013, maybe 2014. It was right around the same time I wrote Controlling Interest. In fact, I think it was like right after or right before. Now, you know, I'll let you guys in on a secret here. The reason why I started looking at this and I paid some serious consideration to this is because I had, for the longest time, remember this is 2014. I started talking about hypergamy back in like 2004. 2003, 2004 on So Suave. Now I have a blog. Now I'm writing in 2013 or 2014. And I went back and I started thinking about that again. I started looking at my old posts and then I go, you know what? Hypergamy used to be something that was secret, but now it's not. And the reason why I thought that is because I kept seeing commercials and I kept seeing essays and articles. And I saw this, gosh, now I'm not going to find it anymore. There was a Zales ad. Was it Zales? Was it? I forget what it was. I forget. Anyways, I saw this sales ad. I think it was for like a diamond ring, and the marketing or the advertisement went something like this: like, get her this diamond ring, and she'll forget about every pilot, every fireman, every hot guy that she knew in college. Just get her this ring, and she'll forget all about those guys. Guys, pop the question. Like that seemed like a good, like, I'm like, who's reading this and not seeing that this is like a poke in the eye to guys saying, you know, yeah, we know that the girl that you really want to marry had her party years and she had her fun. And now you're the one that has to make up. You're the one that has to complete the hypergamous equation for her. She'll forget all about those hot guys at Chippendales or the hot guys that she knew in college if you just buy this ring. And I saw that and I'm like, that is like, to me, like, anyway, you know, red pill lens. And this is 2014. I'm looking at this. I'm going, damn. And then I saw another commercial and it was for Red Robin restaurants. And I use this commercial actually you'll see it in the relevant links in the description of this video. You'll see, just go check it out. It's called Open Hypergamy. I use that as the lead in like video or picture or whatever. And what it was an ad for Red Robin, but I think that was supposed to be sort of like a dinner and a movie kind of thing. And it shows this one woman and they're at Red Robin and she's there. Looks like she's with a date. She's with a guy and the guy is there and they're supposed to do like dinner and a movie or something like that. It's just like a little quick hit. I don't think it's more than like 12-second commercial, 30 seconds max. And so the narrator's talking, blah, blah, blah. But the gist of the commercial is that she goes and she gets to Red Robin, hands the check off to the beta guy who paid for the meal. And now she's going to go off and she picks up, holds the hands with some other guy and walks off to go to see a movie with a hotter guy than the guy that she's sitting at the table with. And I'm like, and we're supposed to laugh at that. And guys are supposed to go, it's just a joke. Just get over it. What's wrong with you? You can't take a joke kind of thing. And I'm like, that's not a joke, man. That's a shift. That's a paradigm shift, but that is a shift in the way that like the comfort level that women have. I'm sorry, my white balance is starting to go there. That is a shift in the comfort that women had with men in revealing their sexual strategy. And what that said to me, and I bounced the idea off of Dalrock back then. I said, this is open hypergamy. This is women. Women have become so comfortable with the idea of revealing their mating strategy. Like they got nothing to lose. Why wouldn't they laugh at it? Why wouldn't it be funny? We're empowering women with this. Well, how do we do that? Well, we laugh at, and to this day, we see the same thing on TikTok now. In particular, that's what really made me want to start doing the show today. But prior, like back in 2014, 2015, all the way up to like say 2019, somewhere around there, in that 5-year stretch, women got more and more comfortable explaining in as public a way as they can that this is the way I'm going to do it. In fact, I remember reading one woman saying, yes, that's our sexual strategy. I'm going to have my cake and eat it too. And I'm going to have it with chocolate sprinkles. I remember this chick saying that. And I'm like, well, so and if that's where she's at, and that's what, okay, I'm not going to criticize her for that. Yeah, we can talk about that in another video if you'd like. But right now, I want to focus on the embracing of that mating strategy in public, in making it say, like, right now, when I talk about alpha and beta, I remember back in the day when people saying, well, alpha is this or alpha is that. And when we talk and we try to define what alpha is, it's defined again based on the hypergamous equation. So for some people, alpha is the guy, like if you talk to doomers today, Black Pill, MGTOW, looking at you, those guys who are the looks maxers, those guys, everything is based on the arousal side of the equation. It's only looks. It's only your jaw. It's only your V taper. It's only your six pack. It's only how close do you look to Giga Chad kind of thing. Like that's all that there is. And it completely ignores the opposite side of hypergamy, which is the only thing somebody like Jordan Peterson or the guys who are more moralistic focus on, which is provisioning and being a good provider and being a good father and being a good husband and that kind of stuff, and building your life so that when the time comes, when you're 30 and stupid, you're already prepared to forgive her youthful indiscretions, and maybe being a single mother by that point, and be ready, like Sheryl Sandberg says, don't worry, there'll be a guy who wants to have an equal partner with you, be an equal partner with you. They're all beta chumps who bought into that and still buy into that blue pill conditioning, but they're there, right? They're still dumb. They'll still do it. In fact, their churches will tell them to do it, or popular culture will tell them to do it, or Disney will tell them to do it, or God knows whoever else in this gynocentric social order that will condition those guys to think that they're doing the right thing at the right time for that woman because she just is special. Remember what Will Smith said about Jada back in the day? Oh, she's this jewel in the rough. I just felt there was just something about her. No, Will Smith has been on record as saying, I just wanted somebody to connect with. I just wanted somebody to want me back. And he still doesn't have it today. That's what you want. If he has been like cheating or whatever, that's probably why he wants somebody to want him back. So you got that dynamic working for you. Women are now embracing, or have been really for at least the last 5 years, by my reckoning, at least the last 5 years, maybe longer. And now they don't care. They don't care if you know. They don't even care if you know about alpha seed beta need. They don't care because everything works in their favor enough so they don't have to care. So like I was saying before, when we were defining alpha back in the day, it was usually defined, like I said, by two different ways. It was alpha was either the guy who was just like the physical prowess. It was all alpha seed, or alpha was the guy who was the stand-up guy, who was the leader of men, and the guy who was the leader of his youth pastor, or he was a youth pastor and leader of church, or he's a mayor of the town, or he was, a fine and upstanding pro-social, social man. And boy, he's great. Right? That there was that moralistic kind of side of things where people were expecting that from a guy. And you'll still hear women say that today. Well, that's not what, or guys, I can tell where guys' headspace is, their blue pill conditioning is. If I go and I say alpha tells, I don't have to, I say 2 words. I can type in 2 words in Twitter, and it could be whoever, a celebrity, a guy who like saves his kid from a shark attack or something like that. It's just 2 letters, right? Or I can say, okay, this guy right here, if I say, well, Andrew Tate, right? Andrew Tate, alpha AF, right? Or alpha tells. He's not alpha. He's this one. I can't, but he's not an upstanding leader of society. And then women will pile on too. How can you possibly say that? He's this and that's like, well, I have to explain what alpha is to them. I have to go through that whole rigmarole. I'm not going to talk about it right now, but the interpretation is usually what guys want is usually based on what they align with themselves the best. So if they see themselves as sort of like the Playboy cad, and I say, oh, alpha tells, they'll nod their head. But if I go and I say, oh, this guy over here, like the two different kinds of alphas, right? There's Captain America, and then there's Tony Stark, right? There's Iron Man. And if you align with one or the other more, then that's going to be the one that you're going to agree with. And if the other one is called an alpha, you go, he's not really an alpha because he doesn't take responsibility for himself. No, there's plenty of alphas in jail right now. There's plenty of drug dealing, gang leader alphas, and there's plenty of guys who are leaders of industry and guys who are, when I talk about like with Jeff Bezos, or I talk about like Elon Musk, and they go, well, he's alpha because he's got lots of money. No. Alpha starts here, not here. Okay. Yes, this is important. Yes, looks are important. Yes, your affluence. Yes, your status. Yes, your dominance. Yeah, but it starts right here. So when I'm talking about, when we're talking about hypergamy in general, when whatever you align with, that you see as being like you're maximizing your potential or whatever, hopefully you do think in those terms. But like if you have an idea of what is alpha, it's usually based on one side or the other of the hypergamous equation. So if you say, okay, well, women only like the hot guy in the foam cannon party, that's alpha. Or women are only going to be after the guy who is the upstanding gentleman who reads the Bible and has a business of his own. And it doesn't matter that he's 10 pounds overweight or 20 pounds overweight or whatever. It's because he's still alpha because he takes care of his business and he's a good father and he's a good husband. That's an alpha. Both of those definitions are based on the hypergamous equation. And the only reason why you have an idea of one's better than the other, or one you identify more with one than the other, is because women are open with hypergamy right now. They're happy to talk about it. They're like the difference between alpha and beta is really defined by women's mating strategy. What is it that women seem to respond to? The jerk, or the nice guy, or maybe not the doormat nice guy, but the guy who's generous and he's a good father. It's cads versus dads. And I think on some level of consciousness, men and women have known this for a while. But it's based on the hypergamous equation. So whatever it is that you think you're like, guys, remember when I tell you guys this, I said, every man that every kid is like just hitting like puberty, right? Every 12-year-old boy, has some idea of how he thinks it's best to go from being, without a girlfriend to getting a girlfriend. As young, probably even younger than that by now, but like certainly that age. And that's why I say every guy, women maybe too, but like guys have game. How effective that game is open to interpretation. So like formalized red pill informed, red pill aware game is certainly different than your blue pill conditioned game that, Disney has smashed into your head since you were 5 years old. Right. So when I'm talking about that, usually guys, when they come to their own concepts, and I did the same thing myself, when they come to their own concepts of what is going to work best for them, it's usually based, again, on women's hypergamous equation. So for some guys, the best way to solve their reproductive problem is to, get into bodybuilding, become the quarterback of the football team, maximize their physical potential. For other guys, it's like, well, I'm never going to be Chad over here, who's the quarterback of the football team, but maybe I can, write the next great app and make a lot of money and get in on that side of the equation. But the fact of the matter is that women are open about it now. It's something that they have no shame. And matter of fact, they're very prideful and flaunt it. The whole Tommy Lahren thing is an indictment of that. That's a summation of open hypergamy right there. So when guys, like I hear too many guys, I'm looking at you, Matt, from 33 Secrets, but also not just you, but there are a lot of other guys who will use the term open hypergamy as if it's like a verb, like, oh, she's using her open hypergamy. No. Open hypergamy is a dynamic. It's not a verb. It's not a tool. Let me pull this out of my open hypergamy out of my purse and I'll use it on this guy. No. All women are hypergamous. All women are hypergamous. And how they express that, how they embrace that is contextual. Yes. Is she religious? Is she whatever, culturally, socially, religiously, her family upbringing, whatever values that she still might have in this day and age, all of that is going to be some sort of buffer. It's going to limit or it's going to maximize that however she goes about it. But it's something that's always running in women's heads. So don't say that, hypergamy is not something women turn on or turn off. or it's like she has some like oh, she's a 10 on hypergamy, and this girl she's an 8, and this girl she's a 6 on the hypergamous scale, and that's how she's. No, I mean, women who are attractive can be more sexually selective, yes, but even the 4, even the 2, she's still just as hypergamous as the girl who's a 10. She's just expressing it and let's just say embracing it in a different context. I keep telling, and I'm going to put this stupid graph up here in just a second, but I keep telling you guys that 100% of women are looking for the top 20% of guys. It's not, there's no such thing as a sort of mating. And I want to show you this really quickly here, because I'm starting to see this come around, because I think doomers are really, really like laughing at this, or they're using this to just sort of beat themselves up. And let me grab this real quick. So this is, there you go. So this comes from, like, this is sort of a bastardization, or it's a distortion of the old school hypergamous, let's just say, scales or whatever. And I think a lot of guys mistake this because, and I mentioned this in the Pareto principle video that I did, which is the 80-20 rule, because too many guys think that, oh, well, women are 20% of guys are banging 80% of the women. No, that's not how hypergamy works. 100% of women want to get with the top 20% of guys. That's how hypergamy works. Now, if you look on this side right over here, which is the before the sexual revolution, this is also a mistake. This is the assortive mating model, so that a 1 gets with a 1, a 2 gets with a 2, a 3 gets with a 3, blah 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 blah. That is not the way it worked in any sense of the idea. Okay, that would be ideal in a egalitarian society, in a completely, if we all had, if female ones and male ones both had the same mindset, or both had the same mating strategy, then yeah, that's what this is. This is what's called a sort of mating. So a 6 gets with a 6, a 7 gets with a 7, an 8 gets with an 8. No, women are hypergamous. Men are not hypergamous. Get this through your thick heads. Men do not have an attraction floor. Women, if given the power in a gynocentric social order, will always go for somebody who is at or above their own perceived sexual market value. And today, women think that they're probably like 1 or 2 steps higher than they actually are, because of the internet, because of social media. We've talked about that before. I'm not going to get into that right now. But men do not have that floor. Men are happy to get with if they are perceptually a 6, they're happy to get with a 5 or a 4. Nobody's ugly after 2 a.m., but they would love to get with a 7 or an 8. They would love to be able to do that, but that's not how men's mating strategies work. Men's are scattershot. It's our selection. Opportunism is something that men have when it comes to sexual strategies. So it's like if she. Again, she was hot, I was drunk. I was drunk, and one thing led to another, right? Or she was ugly, I was drunk, and one thing led to another. It's like that slump busting thing, or it's like what is it? Whale hunting? I don't know, whatever you want to call it, right? So the idea of this right here, which is called the assortive mating model, has never existed in human history. It would be great if it did, right? I mean, hey, if we could find some way to make that equal, but see, women, in fact, that is against human evolution. It's against, I should say against, it is suboptimal, let's say, to human evolution. Women want the better deal. They want at least, a lateral change, but they would prefer and most women today believe they deserve the guy who is at least 1 step to 2 or 3 steps above them in sexual market value. That's where you get this kind of stuff. And that's why I think this kind of crap is sort of dangerous. Let me put this over here real quick so you guys can see the full thing. So, let me take that off there. Yeah, I want you to be able to read the whole damn thing. Let's take that off there. Okay, so there you can see that. Now, of course, the joke is, oh, well, this guy's suicidal, this guy's homicidal, this guy's an incel. So what do you think that the guy that made this up, what do you think his priorities are when it comes to the hypergamous equation? Is he thinking in terms of I don't look good enough Like, oh, this guy's a male. What? This guy's a male feminist. This guy's a cuckold. This guy's a trans. And it's granted, it's just a bunch of silly, stupid terminologies. But so let me close that out of there and put this back. So when you look at those things, I wanted to throw that out there because I kept looking at that and I think that right now in this generation and in 2020, when we have things like TikTok, when we have things like social media, that is so like, we just take it for granted right now, like Twitch, OnlyFans is another great one. We look at these things and we don't really realize that the reason they exist. I said this back in the day when when Tinder first came out. Tinder is an app that facilitates hypergamy. Bumble is definitely an app that facilitates hypergamy. So it's swipe right, swipe left, and that's what the thing that sort of makes like a lot of MGTOWs and a lot of doomers and that makes them hopeless, because they think that it's all that. If the only thing that women are looking for is this guy attractive or is this guy not attractive? Yes, I'm aware of the experiments where guys, sort of ugly, stupid incels go and say, well, I'm going to pretend I'm Chad, or I'm going to go put out I'm going to use Giga Chad's picture. And I mean that just sort of relatively, and I'm going to see what kind of responses I get. And then, haha, we made a meme out of it. Great, whatever. But see, the thing is like, that's just if you're online and you're not talking to somebody, or even when you are, you're still just typing in things. You have that buffer, that digital buffer between you and the woman that you're potentially talking to, or you have women approaching you. And so it's real easy to prove the case that all women care about is like superficial hot guys, the hot dude in the foam cannon party, as if your only criteria and your only way of filtering for those guys is through something like Tinder or Bumble, or just a picture and a silly description. And you can be as Chad as you want to. You can be the most obnoxious jerk as you would like to be. And women will respond positively to it because they're really only interested in just getting laid with those guys. Yeah, the women who are prioritizing sex above everything else, sure, I'm sure that they are. Because again, the hypergamous equation. What is a woman prioritizing? Is she prioritizing alpha seed, or is she prioritizing beta need, or is she trying to find a balance between the two? Today, women don't even look. I would say women don't even really look for that in the same guy anymore, and that they don't expect it. Let's just say. So if you've got a guy who is predominantly beta, but like he's the guy that is sort of boyfriend material. Find a guy who's boyfriend material. That's the guy she's going to make rules for. Well, what do women when women make rules for betas and they break rules for alphas? And women know this. How do they know this? Because it's openly expressed. It's everywhere today. So let me one more time. I have to define why am I talking about TikTok and why am I talking about OnlyFans? I'm going to get into TikTok here really quickly. And I was desperately trying to find this damn tweet that somebody sent to me, and I found it, but they had the original tweet had been deleted. So I'm sorry to say that I can't show you these, but I have been just sort of privately emailed or on my DMs from guys talking about these videos, this rise in popularity in TikTok videos, where the woman or the girl, I'm saying woman because they're not women, they're girls is what they are. Be riding in the one in particular I'm thinking of is it's this couple, boyfriend and a girlfriend. They're riding in a car, and she's got it on. She's doing a TikTok video, and how the guy let her like publish this, I don't know. Maybe it was live, who knows? But somewhere along the way, they're having this conversation. She's just all giggles and stupid, maybe a little tipsy or something like that, and she ends up calling her boyfriend the name of her ex. And that was funny, and it's huge, and everybody loves it. And like, oh, it's just a joke. It's okay. And then there's another one that's very similar to that. Or there's another one where, and I know that there's the joke one where the guy's like, the girl is like trying to play a joke on the rise in popularity of the sort of confessional type videos where the girl is with a new boyfriend, or maybe she's with the ex and the new boyfriend, and she has to she's asked these questions, and the boy, the stupid cuck guys on either side of her, the ex included and the new guy, are sitting there kind of oblivious to this whole thing. And she's getting asked these questions. Who is the best kisser? Who is the best in bed? Who do you love the most? Who, like, one of the reasons why I put that that thumbnail as the thumbnail for this show is because that's how common this is getting. It's like, it's so out in the open right now. And I think it's going to be coming to a head. We've kind of moved past open hypergamy to it's in your face, and I don't care if it makes you insane. And I think guys really are, I don't want to say, well, you think guys are victims. No, I don't think they're victims, but I think women are getting way too comfortable with this right now because you're playing with fire, ladies. I have said this, is that women have gotten so comfortable with the idea that they're entitled to personal security and personal safety that they will escalate or initiate inherently unsafe conditions or inherently unsafe circumstances. I see this all the time in these protests right now. I have seen this live in real time at some promos that I was doing last year anyways. I've seen women get just a little bit drunk and they'll push bouncers around because they think they're being funny. And then the bouncer's not, he's sober and he doesn't care what the hell she's talking about. And she kicks her out or whatever. And then she loses her mind and tries to get the boyfriend to beat the other guy up. I have a post called Why We Fight. And it was based on an old school, well, really a PUA principle. Like when pickup artists were talking about amogging, this is when this sort of came out, or like the boyfriend destroyer routine. It was the let's you and him fight dynamic. And so like early PUAs picked up on this, is that when a woman is with a boyfriend and she's sort of like testing that guy, and remember what I said about hypergamy, it's based on doubt. And that doubt is he the best I can do? Is he really the alpha that he's purporting himself to be? And so what some women will do, and I think more now than in the past, is they will try to instigate violence or hostility or some sort of conflict, and they will engineer it so that the guy that they're with and some guy at a bar or some guy here or whatever, that they will conflict with each other. So she'll get up in the guy's face, or she will get up in the girlfriend's face. And if God forbid you have two girls who both are in the let's you and him fight kind of mode, because they'll start going at it and they'll expect their boyfriends to beat each other up to settle their argument. Or I've seen videos where and then I realized this was a joke, but it's still a good example of it. Is I saw this, it was this black couple and they were in a car or something like that. And the woman is in the driver's, or excuse me, is in the passenger side, and the guy's driving, and some guy comes up and cuts him off. And what she does is she leans over and she hits it just lays on the horn. And he's like, smacks her like, what the hell is wrong with you? Look at this guy. He's good. Like thinking that she's trying to sort of like stand up for him, or she's trying to like try to instigate something. And that's what I mean. And it was a joke, of course, but that's what I'm talking about, is women will find ways to sort of instigate something between you and this guy over here. And why? Because they're comfortable in that hypergamous filtration process. They're comfortable in expressing that. They're comfortable in saying, yeah, I'm going to have sex with all these guys that I can possibly, I don't care if I have babies with this guy. He's better. And then they get over here, and now suddenly the guy who is, like Sheryl Sandberg had said back in 2013, 2014, the guy who is the ignorant beta is going to pick up the tab for the choices and the decisions that she made before she probably even met the guy. And that is acceptable. Women know this. They're happy to tell you that. That's not a secret anymore. It's not concealed anymore. It's not like, that's what I mean by open hypergamy. Okay. It's a social dynamic. It's not a verb. Okay. It's not, well, she's using her open hypergamy. No, it is the comfort with which women will express their sexual strategy. And we are I would say maybe 2 generations of women that are comfortable and just proudly flaunt it in front of men. And then in no other place do they do this more than on social media. How do I know? Because TikTok is rife with these videos right now, where the girl is admitting that the guy, the ex-boyfriend, she would rather be banging this guy. He cheated. She got mad. She cried. She would still accept the guy back. She would still want this dude back. She would still get with that guy. Who do you love more? This guy. Why are you with this guy? Because he's comfortable, because he's the guy that he's my fail-safe. He's my plan B. In fact, I've got stats on the plan B thing right here. Actually, where did I put that? Hold on one second, guys. I'm going to show you I have a post. I got a post for that. And I didn't put this. I would just refer you to the links I have here, but let's go grab these anyways, because I want you to see the stats. Now, I wrote Plan B in 2016. I wrote it because I had this. Actually, hell, I'll just put the whole thing up there for you. Hang on one second. Share this screen for you. It's Chrome tab and it's Plan B. There you go. All right, I don't know if you can see that. Let me boost that up a little bit there. Okay, so Plan B. I'll just read this to you really quickly. And this was by a source. The source was onepoll.com. There's other ones as well, but this was like the infographic that I didn't do this. This is not a red pill thing. Okay, this was like, I think women were actually very proud to have done this, like 2,000 female respondents, right? 43% of them have a backup man in current relationship if the current relationship ends. 8 out of 10, that is 80%, right, are in contact with the backup man. 15% said their feelings were stronger for the backup man, the backup, the plan B. 50% said their partner was aware of the backup man. So half of the dudes understand that that's the guy that's waiting, his turn. Remember we were talking about like people get so upset when we talk about how it's not your turn, or it's she's never yours, it was just your turn. It's right. You want to know, I didn't even really think about this until just now. If you want to know why guys get so pissed off at that, or why guys get so upset when we talk about that, I think I did this breakdown. I did it with John from Modern Life Dating, and I think it was Pinnacle of a Man guy, and he was just running me up the flagpole, and Rich up the flagpole, or Donovan up the flagpole for saying, she was never yours, it's just your turn. It's not like guys came up with that because we wanted to beat ourselves up. We came up with that because we understood the dynamic. We saw the information. Here in 2016, we have statistical confirmation of exactly that dynamic. This isn't something we just pulled out of our butts in 2020. This is what's been going on because open hypergamy, open embrace of this. Even 50% of the guys in this data set here, anyways, let me put this back up, are still aware of the guy. 1 out of 5 admitted the backup man was a friend of their partner. 1 out of 10 said the backup man had already confessed their undying love. That's how you know a woman. That's how you know this was like a female, like inspired data set here. So I'll stop this now. So when I talk about, or when, not even me, like when anybody in the sphere talks about like, oh, she was never yours, it was just your turn. That's not guys who came up with that. That's women who came up with that. We just noticed the dynamic. Hey, they're embracing this. Let's talk about it. Oh, you're a misogynist. Or you're a dude. You're trying to slit your own throat. Women, not all women are like that. There's the data set, dude. That's it. It's right, dude. It's right there. But don't listen to me. I'm just that crazy guy on YouTube, right? I'm just that crazy guy who wrote those books. That's where that comes from. Open hypergamy. So when we were doing this, when I did that video with John from Modern Life Dating, I hate to, again, it's like the same thing I said when I was doing the Tommy Lahren breakdown. When I talk about I'm not trying to flame the guys who are coming up with this. I'm just giving you the counterpoint to it. And so the counterpoint is this, is that when you talk about those things, guys are not saying the juice ain't worth the squeeze because they like want to beat themselves up. It's because that's what women are telling them. That's open hypergamy. Women say, yeah, you know what? I want my guy to be, I want to get with the hottest guy I can get with, breed with him, and have and find some way to lie to the guy at 30 So he'll forgive me, or maybe I'll get back in church and maybe I'll meet a nice Christian guy who will forgive me of my sins and start a family with me or help me. He's got benefits. He'll help me with these kids because he thinks that's his moral duty to do so. Again, I'm writing about this in book 4, if you haven't guessed already. That's the religious side of the equation. But, just in the social side of the equation, what do you want me to do? Ignore it? Ignore it more? No, I'm not going to do that. I'm trying to help you guys. Always trying to help you guys. So, and I think that, and the reason I'm bringing this up right now, and the reason that this is so I think it kind of rubbed me the wrong way is because I keep seeing these TikTok videos of the guy, the poor kid who's the new boyfriend, who is really the guy who's sort of the beta and waiting, but it's worse because he's waiting and he's supposed to be in a relationship with a girl who's still an alpha widow of the guy sitting on the other side of him, and we're laughing, and girls are laughing at it. And you know why it's funny? Because it's an open embrace of open hypergamy. It's an embrace of their mating strategy. And you know why it's funny? Because the guys on either side of them are dumb. Even the guy that she was banging and that she keeps saying that she loves him and she's the alpha widow of, even that guy is stupid. And the guy that's next to her, who's also who's wondering why she loves him more. Like I said in the thing, like I love you, but I'm not in love with you. That guy who's still stuck in that situation and he doesn't know, he's in a worse spot, but he's just as dumb as the other guy. I mean, with respective ignorance, they're both ignorant. And girls are like, ha 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 ha, it's funny because it's TikTok and she's a young lady and just meant it as a joke, man. Can't you just take a joke? Well, why is it a joke? Why is it funny? Why do we laugh at it? Why do girls laugh at it? Because they get it. And those other guys don't get it. The guys on either side of them don't get it. Remember what I said about just get it? Those guys don't just get it. So there's that aspect. Now there's the OnlyFans thing. And this is sort of the last thing I wanted to get to because this is the worst thing about all of this. I'm planning on writing an essay about this. This really kind of rubbed me the wrong way, but I needed to put this out there because the rise of the popularity of OnlyFans right now has increased this exponentially. So I'm going to read this to you, and this is kind of messed up. Okay, so just to let you know, I'm not doing this to sensationalize anything. I'm not trying to mess with you guys. I get it. In fact, if anything, I might even write a book about this just to help you guys get out of these kinds of situations. Like that's how bad I think this is, or how bad it's getting. I almost feel like I really immediately need to address this part right here. So I'm going to show you this really fast. There it is. Now this came up in I think it was July 27th or July 26th of 2020. So I saw this. This is an anonymous thing, but I'm seeing this a lot more. Okay. And this is sort of illustrates or it explains sort of that dynamic. And this, now you'll understand why I wanted to pair OnlyFans with open hypergamy. So this is a guy here, system admin here. I spent $4,000 on OnlyFans. It's not only sexual. I fall in love with a girl. On OnlyFans, and I want her to feel that I'm going to do anything for her. I then get obsessed and spend about half of my monthly income on her. I come to a point where it makes me angry that she won't get to know me in real life, and I fall into a deep depression. I go through the depressed phase and masturbate. I cry, etc. I delete her shit on, and then I fall in love with the next one, and so on and so on. How many of you have the same addiction, and how do you get out of it? And I wanted to put that up there because that is where we're going next. It's not enough to laugh. It's not enough to ridicule. It's not enough to insult people by saying, oh, you're an incel, you're this, you're that. It's not enough to do that. Now we're going to make a living on this. Now we're going to fleece these guys, right? I mean, these guys are doing what they want. Like guys have always done this. Okay. Guys, even when we had like strippers, like guys would go or prostitutes, And I know something about prostitutes, not because I've gone to prostitutes, but this is Nevada. Okay. So there are legal prostitutes here. And every time, in every interview, every article I've ever heard from like professional sex workers, a lot of them say it's not so much about the sex as it is about the connection. I said this on the incel video as well. So there's no such thing as an incel. If you want to get laid, you can get laid. In 2020, you got even $300 in your pocket right now. Come to Nevada, I will get you laid. I'll take you to the cat houses, you'll get laid. And I joke about that, but I shouldn't joke about that because I realize I'm trying to make a point with that. The point is that it's not just about the sex. It's not just about the getting off. The guy even admits that, it's not about, I masturbate and I go on and I cry and I go back and I start the whole cycle over again. That's a negative feedback loop. And there's a lot of guys that are getting caught in that negative feedback loop because women have found a way to use open hypergamy as a profit model, as in the hustle economy, like I keep talking about. It's a hustle. And it has never been easier to make it and profit by it than since OnlyFans and, well, really the internet, let's just say, in general, has sort of risen to its own. And I look at this and I said, this does not bode well for the future. I don't care if you're well, you're one of the 80%, so nobody cares because nobody cares if you reproduce. Nobody cares if you're happy. No one cares if somebody gives you a hug or a pat on the back or whatever kind of thing. And so we continue this isolation. We continue this, for guys who are passive, for guys who are betas, for guys, okay, maybe, but not all these guys are that mentally balanced. Then you get the guys like Elliot Rodger. Then you get a guy like Alec Manassian. Then you get guys like whatever. And that, if that happened in 2014, 2016, somewhere around there, what's going to happen in 2022? What's going to happen in 2026? And I think that knowing and understanding the dynamic that you're already involved. I think one of the ways, I'm not a psychologist. I'm not a clinical psychologist. I play one on the internet. But when we talk about like disorders, when we talk about the potential for violence, when we talk about for depression or even self-violence, when we talk about those things, there has to be a catalyst. And usually those catalysts are the result of years and years and years of negative feedback loops. And so there has to be a way to break those negative feedback loops. I can sit here until I'm blue in the face and say, hey, just get off of OnlyFans. Just stop it. Make something yourself. Stop being a little bitch. Right? I can give you the pep talk. You want a pep talk? Pep talks don't work. Well, they might work temporarily. And then you go right back to your habituated negative feedback loop. Because it seems like the only real recourse, because virtual attention, like that's really, what did this guy just talk about? He was just talking about like, oh, well, because I know I'll never know her in real life, because I know that I'll never, like, why would you pay a woman $4,000 to get her attention? Well, what the next guy who pays her $5,000, he gets more attention than you do now. And that's really it. All it is. It's sort of like, it's prostitution of attention. And it's not so much the sexual thing. I'm sure, she's got to look good and show her butt and a G-string or something like that. Yeah, right. That has to happen. But even if it's not sexual and it's flirtatious, and these guys are they're paying for access, man. They're paying for somebody to sit and talk with them, or somebody to say, how was your day, honey? Like when you go to a strip club, the most successful strippers and strip clubs, and strip clubs are a thing that's old order thinking right now. Why would you be a stripper when you can be on OnlyFans? Why not do both, really? But why would you do that and deal with that all day long, and the drugs and the guy, just whatever? Why would you deal with that when you can just do it digitally and make even more money than you would as on the pole? But the best strippers were and still are the ones who make a personal connection, who know how to sell themselves, who know what the desperate beta blue pill guys usually, not everyone that goes in there, obviously guys who are just showing up for a bachelor party is different than the regular guys, but the most successful strippers understand the sort of stripper dynamic, right? It's the pay attention to this guy, be concerned with him, like pay attention to him. The guy's probably gone like a week without either maybe his wife, or maybe not even have a wife. Like he's busted his ass at work all day long, or maybe he's just sort of this socially awkward guy. He goes in there, throws a 20, gets a lap dance, and has probably not had anybody talk to him or have any physical contact with that guy. Even if he can't touch, he's still, it's still that sit on your lap, how you doing, baby kind of thing. those are the most successful ones because that's how starved guys are for attention. That virtual attention, like this one guy I was reading here, that guy will gladly spend $4,000 and spend half his paycheck on this girl just to get her attention so that he can in some way in his hindbrain feel like there is some girl somewhere who's pretty but also cares about his existence. And that's really hard for guys. And as the embrace of hypergamy gets worse, as it becomes more flaunted, as women become like I said this about Tomi Lahren, and this sort of comes full circle to Tomi Lahren, is that Tommy's biggest problem is her hubris. And that's really true of most women because we have empowered women. It's what I call the fempowerment narrative. We've empowered them since the late 60s, early 70s, up to where we're at right now, to the point where it is just out of control. And there is no humility in Tomi Lahren. There's no humility in most women right now. As a matter of fact, they believe that they're owed that money so that they can take that $4,000 from the guy who just wants attention and fly off to Aruba and have sex with the hot guy in the foam cannon party and then go back to that again. Like that's like the good times are never going to end kind of thing. And that's all based on this, I won't say pride, but like, I think it's more of an open embrace of, well, now we live in a gynocentric social order. And I think on some level of consciousness, women realize that we do live in a gynocentric social order. And the reason I say that is because we would not have the levels of hubris amongst women in westernized countries, and not just the United States, but remember, this is a global sexual marketplace. By order of degree, let's just say, this hubris that gives them the idea that they are owed that $4,000. They are owed that. Like, I'm making up for all my sister's oppression from over the years kind of thing. And I'm not saying they're all like that, but like there's that need for attention. For women, attention is the coin of the realm, right? It's the coin of the realm in girl world. Another quote from an essay I wrote. It's actually in my first book. But attention is something that women get off on. So you combine that with hubris, you combine that with money, combine that with open hypergamy, and it can lead not only women, but also not only men, but women down a very dark path. And so I'm trying to draw a little attention to this because I'm batting around an idea right now. I'm batting around an idea of coming to some sort of process of finding a way to sort of break that negative feedback loop for guys. I don't think I would be more able to help guys break that negative feedback loop of that constant need for, attention or whatever. But I think really it starts with understanding open hypergamy, and it understands that I don't think a lot of guys really realize the mess that they're in, the complexity of the mess that they're in. And they don't understand why they keep coming. Like, how do I break out of it? Like that guy was saying, how do I break out of this? How do I help myself? Rollo, help me. I get guys all the time. Help me. I'm thinking about self-harm. I'm thinking about this. I'm thinking about that. I'm trying. I can't do it one by one. I'm going to, like I said, I mentioned last show on my Patreon, I'm going to be doing some group counseling sessions. And as soon as I'm done with book 4, I'll do some private ones. But I think really what I need to do is find some way to help guys break out of that negative feedback loop, because God forbid I actually tell a woman that she should need to do some things, or she should find some humility. Imagine me, like I said this in the video, but like imagine me going up to Tomi Lahren and say, you know what you need? You know what you lack the most? What? Humility. That's what you lack the most, right? That's you lack grace. You lack humility. If you guys want to, my most recent essay on, and I'm done now, but my most recent essay on the rational male, I just published this week, and it's called "The Empress Has No Clothes." And I wrote about Tomi Lahren, but primarily it wasn't so much about Tomi Lahren as it was about what I'm talking about right now. And so if you want a little bit of follow up, it's actually the lead story. Like you just go to therationalmale.com, you'll see it. And I wrote it because I had just done this, breakdown of Tomi, but I'm also seeing guys' reactions to this. So it's either they're going to beat themselves up. Like this is not like Tommy's, or the women like Tomi, or women with that attitude. They're not making better guys. They're not making guys who go, yeah, you know what? Tomi really changed my life. She really changed my mind about myself. I want to be just like the guy that she wants me to be. That's not happening whatsoever. I can talk to them blue in the face about like responsibility versus authority. You don't even get that debate or that response to that discussion when guys are like, who are you? Like, why would I care about what you think? Well, that you do. Guys do care about what women think. Clearly they do. They're 80+% of guys are willing to, by order of degree, put down money for attention or in one way or another, whether it's prostitution or it's just like living a life so that they can get that way. And then there's the 20%ers who really don't care. But there's got to be, I'm noticing a connection between that kind of hubris and that kind of lack of grace and that lack of, men are trash. I'm not a feminist. That versus the guy who's talking about spending $4,000 or half of his paycheck on girls and then going through that process. So where do we go with that? Anyway, those were my ideas. I'm going to go back and because I'm not going to go that long today, guys. I'm sorry. So I think I've said what I needed to say. I hit all my points. Alex R, thank you for that $4.99, my friend. Talon, thank you for that €1. Big ups. Let's see. What else do I got? Oh man, now it's decided to get bright in here. We have so much smoke outside right now. Talon, thank you for that $2.99. Nebulous, ever read The Manipulated Man? Yes, by Esther Villar. What did you think of it? I think it was good for the time. I think it's a little dated right now. I also think that the reason why people keep throwing that one back at me to ask me, what did you think of that? Remember, it was written by Esther Villar back in the 1970s. And it was what I would expect from somebody like name any female MRA right now, or in name only. And that's what I would expect from them. Well, was she ahead of her time? Yeah. Was Ayn Rand ahead of her time? Okay. Oh yeah. Good stuff. Okay. Adonis Fuse, zero fuse. Want to see hypergamy in diamond ad. Oh, copy paste this. Okay. You know what? Give me 1 second. I'll go grab it for you. Give me 1 minute here. I can grab it for you. I have it. The reason I know it is because I put it in. Do I have it out? I don't think I do. Here's your special request. Let's see. Maybe it was on this one. Maybe it's on 3. Let's see. Why we fight open hypergamy, selective breeding. You know what, dude? I will find it for you. It's actually a lead in. Well, maybe I have it on my history here. Hang on 1 second. It's not controlling interests. It was something else. Wasn't open. Oh, maybe it was open cuckoldry. Hold on. Maybe that was it. Was this it? There it is. Okay. I got it here for you. All right. You asked for it. I'll give it to you. This was the, it was actually from a essay I did called Open Cuckoldry. Now this was it. Was this Forever Mark? That's what it was. It says, she'll forget every fireman, sailor, and rock star of her dreams. A diamond is forever. Happy holidays from Forever Mark. This was in 2015. And that was my lead-in picture for open cuckoldry. Because really, and I was 100% right about this, again, is that open hypergamy leads to open cuckoldry, which is where we're at right now. It's expected, right? It's okay. And I meant open cuckoldry. And when I talk about like the war on paternity, that's what I'm talking about. That's the war on paternity is open cuckoldry. The name withheld says, who believes that their parents would still have gotten together during this time period? Probably not in the same way. You know, I use this, and there's a graph that I have. It's in book 4. It's how people used to meet and form relationships. Starting back, I think in the 1940s, all the way up to now. And if you look online, it's just, the only way people meet is online, like Instagram, well, at least you do your research on Instagram, right? But it's all about meeting online now. Simple Fly says, up and coming men are struggling with what they have been taught by women. Yeah. Men reframe and increase their own value. Never bend the knee unless it increases your own value in industriousness. Well, I would say never bend the knee, period, but that's me. What else is on here? Get to the rest of these over here. Where did I end up? Oh, John Doe. Whiskey Sam Whiskey says, hey, Rollo, what do women prioritize more, hypergamy or feminism? Hypergamy is something that's natural. It is part of women's innate mental firmware, their evolved mental firmware. Feminism is just a means to an end. Feminism is the religion, or I should say it's the active arm of the feminine imperative. And if you have seen my episode on chivalry, which I would suggest everybody go do, nobody wanted to watch a video on chivalry, but it was a very important video. So if you want to take the time, you can find that in my library. I haven't moved that one over. I might still move it over to Patreon, but you're kind of like mixing apples and oranges there. Hypergamy is something that's always on. It's something that is a mating strategy, whereas feminism is sort of, well, it's a hate movement, first of all. It's a supremacism movement also. So it's a power movement. It's how do women who are innately vulnerable and innately powerless get power covertly. So when I talk about chivalry was feminism 1.0. It took men's way of dealing with other men, honor, respect, trust, all the things that like, if you look at the noble virtues of chivalry, take all of those and insert one thing in there. Oh, and you have to do whatever women say. We'll dress it up so it doesn't sound exactly like that, but do whatever women say, or win my lady's honor. Let's kind of jigger some romantic ideal into chivalry. That was feminism 1.0. That's how women who were innately powerless, who were married to powerful men, achieved covert power. And that's how feminism now is more about overt power. It's about we're gonna take it and we're gonna have the vote, and it's more about overt power. It's a big power play. The feminine imperative is anything that benefits women's interests. So feminism is sort of an active arm of the feminine imperative. Hypergamy is different. Hypergamy might set the goals for feminism, some of them, because when women achieve power, they use that power to find ways to optimize hypergamy. And I mean both sides of the equation. So it's not, you say, well, how are women using power to get hot young guys for their alpha seed side of hypergamy? Well, they're working on it. But the first thing they worked on was security, because the security side of hypergamy is more important than the alpha seed side of them in the long term. Security, beta provisioning, protection, being able to be certain and secure in their innate female vulnerability has more long-term impact on women than their short-term, because remember, women's sex appeal is short. It burns hot and short, assuming they do the right thing, right? They can make it last longer, of course, but by comparison, women's peak years are they mature fast, they burn real quick, and they're gone. And so because of that puts women into an innately insecure position. And so women are always looking for security. So when women get power, it's more about how can we make sure that we're insured for the long term. And then once that's insured, now we can go back and find the guys that we really want to bang. That's how it works. Christian Matico, as much as this truth hurts, thanks for saying it. I'm articulating what you already know. Thomas Menure, I know it's not manure. It's Menuet. It's a French sounding last name. When I get intimated with a quote unquote damage, masculine, brashy girl, a masculine, okay. I want to say intimate. I find it easy to do dear dark triad, to do deep dark triad behavior in bed with girls with softer frame, good girls. I find it harder to do similar stuff. I'm sure you probably do, because I think there's an expectation thing there. Yeah, I think you'd be surprised when it comes to like, I really, that's actually a good idea for a topic. I might do a topic on good girls versus bad girls. I think I should do something like that. I would say that that's probably more your impression of the girl than it, or you, it's on you more than it is on the girl, because you will find that even the good girls, the good, soft, feminine girls still enjoy being dominated. Now, I'm not saying go abuse them and hold their necks and whatever. I'm just saying that you will see that, and I've talked about this with Sterling Cooper several times. You will see, like, you will see a side of that woman come out if you are brave enough and bold enough to experiment. I don't know who this is. Who is this? New fan here. Banker. Some girls I'm dating, 24 to 28, get pissed when they realize you had the SMV they used to have and you get it. They act like Tommy. Yeah, well, Tommy is reacting, and I meant to say this. Tommy is kind of reacting to the idea, or to the I guess acknowledgement, the cognitive acknowledgement, let's say, that she's entering into the epiphany phase. I would say she probably might even be in the epiphany phase maybe a year early. Just because I say 29 to 31 doesn't mean it can't happen earlier or maybe a little later. But I think she probably thought she was going to be in a different position than she is at 28 than she was. And so now, again, when women get in the epiphany phase, their id and their ego have a fight, a conflict. The id still that's the hedonistic part, right? That's the animal part. The id still wants to have a good time with the hot guy in the foam cannon party, where the ego says we can't do this forever because the chuck wagon's going to be pulling out by the time you're 30 years old and you need to find the guy. And guess what? It's their fault. It's men's fault that you don't have a boyfriend yet, even though it's men's fault that you can't find the guy who is the perfect balance of hot alpha seed and dependable, loyal, religious, fun, but determined beta need guy. She's getting the conflict is always one between alpha cad and beta dad. And women don't want to settle. She's already said that. It'll be a cold day in hell when I chase a man. It'll be a cold day in hell when I settle for a guy. That's the id conflicting with the ego right now. And the ego says, you know what? Time's running out, baby. We got to do something. And rather than find humility and insight in that, it's all about hubris. It's all about pride. It's all about you owe me. It's all about it must be men's fault. And so that's what she's defaulting to right now. It's got to be men's fault. Maga Cat says, don't be the backup man. Yes, don't be the plan B. Now you know. Knowing is half the battle. Bacon comments, they don't recognize just what kind of danger they often get themselves into until it's almost too late. Part of the quote on my post, the threat. Yeah, that the threat is actually an essay that's in book 1. Kevin Rodriguez, why is it okay for the man to have multiple women or a body count, but not okay for men? Okay, you need to go and rather than answer that one for you, Kevin, I have a post that's I have a post. I have a video that answers exactly that. Why is it that her sexual notch count is important and why it isn't for men? Go look that up. It'd be better for you to go look that up instead of me sitting here for the next 45 minutes explaining it to you. I've explained that lots of times. Basically, it boils down to this, is that men and women are different and they have different mating strategies. And when women have more partners, they tend to have a bigger pool of guys that they can become alpha widows on. Just like we were saying before, right? Like I was just showing you on TikTok, or I was explaining to you about TikTok, right? Alpha widows. Why do we have so many alpha widows right now? Well, because women are more promiscuous, or it's socially acceptable for women to be more promiscuous. That has an impact. That has an effect on them that it does not have effect on men. Oh, that sounds terrible. It's not equal. Yeah, you're right. It's not equal, because if evolution and the world and the planet Earth is not equal, you're right. You got me. Because when men have multiple partners, they don't do it for the same reasons. They have different sexual strategies. They have different implications. They have different consequences. One of the consequences of women having more partners is they have an inability, or they tend to have a less ability, let's say, to pair bond emotionally with other men who come after them. Men don't have that problem, because men's sexual strategy is scattershot. Women's is about quality and sticking with one guy who's going to be trying to balance the hypergamous equation. But go look at that video. That's the easier way to say that. Thomas Manure says, I already answered that one. One Man's Way. Beta dudes. Is that you? Oh no, that's Gino Fu. Thank you for that $20, my friend. That was really good. One Man's Way says, beta dudes like me send money online as an advertisement to get attention and connection through the sea of global hypergamy. No, you're not. It's the same thing as a super chat. $4,000. I would love for you to give me a $4,000 super chat. What do I have to do for you to get a $4,000 super chat? There's a difference between a $20 super chat and a $4,000 super chat. Guys usually don't get the $4,000 super chat. Girls get the $4,000 super chat. So don't think for a second that there's put it this way, like, who are we bullshitting here? Okay. It's all about motivation. Like, what's motivating you to do that? You realize that you're probably doing it because it's not because you're going to get, it's funny. It's like, if you had $4,000, you know what kind of sexual experience I could get for you in Nevada for $4,000? Why on earth? So it's not about the sex. It's not about even cutting through the hypergamy. It's about, please love me. It's about, please pay attention to me. It's be my wife for this month. Why is sugaring? Sugar babies. I got to do an episode about sugaring too, or prostitution, like modern day online prostitution. Why is sugaring even becoming more acceptable? Why is sex work becoming more acceptable? It's like, well, these guys want to get beat up, or they want, like, they're masochists or whatever. Maybe there's something to that. I would agree. But, like, we're trying to normalize those things. We're trying to say that it's sugaring. Well, you don't have to have sex with that old guy. He's old and crusty, and he's just going to give you money and put you through college. It's still prostitution. It's prostitution in the sense that you're prostituting yourself, lady, for attention. Now, maybe there's some sex involved. I don't know, but that's what it boils down to. How many sugaring girls would be happy to get $4,000 a month from one of their daddies? I don't know. Maybe it's more than that. I don't know. Aleph, the nemesis says, as someone who travels constantly for work, making more than ever in my life at 36, how can I find a tribe and spin plates on the road? I'll tell you exactly how you can do that. You can join my Patreon because we have a tribe. I'm trying to form a tribe, really, and it'll teach you how to. I mean, there's lots of ways you can do it. You got to look for it. I think a lot of guys are already in tribes and they don't realize that they are. Like, when I think about tribes, like my band, I'm in a band with, well, 5 people, right? Well, 4 people, myself included. But the people that we hang out with, the people that like us, and I consider that part of the tribe. I consider you guys all part of my tribe. Everybody that's in the chat right now, you're part of my tribe. When I'm working and I'm doing my promos, the people that I work with are my dog is part of that. That's my dog tribe. There's, who's your family? Your family is your very first tribe. So I think join the Patreon, but still, look around you. You're probably already in a tribe and you don't realize you are. John Doe says, your book got me out of the matrix. Thank you. You are welcome, John Doe. Macho Toxico. He says, hi, Rollo. I've sent the email to interview you for my Brazilian YouTube channel called Macho Toxico. You did? When did I get it? When did you? Oh, I have my emails closed right now because I don't want the sound to go off. Macho, please, if I didn't get it, hit me again, because just that name, I will do it just for that name. So yes, I would be happy to go on your Macho Toxico. I would make a thumbnail for you even. YOLO says, what is the evolutionary reason women need to talk about their problems without solving them? Okay. If the problems don't get solved, what do they achieve? Well, because think about it again. I don't know how many ways to tell you this, my friend. Think about the way that I'm just going to put this on because I'm sick of that. There we go. Think about how many ways that, Jesus, man, it's really bright in here today. I apologize for the lighting in here today. I didn't even turn on the lights because it's just so screwed. Okay, so when it comes to communication, women get off on communication. That's part of their evolutionary firmware. They had to get off. It had to be in some way intrinsically, psychologically satisfying or rewarding for women to connect with another woman, because that women when we're talking about hunter gatherer, we're talking about collectives. When I've talked about this when I was talking about politics about Kamala Harris last Wednesday. Women tend to be more socialistic. They are communitarian. I don't want to call it socialist because that's a political thing. They tend to be more communitarian. They tend to be more collectivist, because women had to form the sisterhood in order to rely on one another, the peer clutch, to survive. And the way that you do that is by communication, by talking. So when the men folk go out and they kill off that tribe and they bring the other women folk, the new women folk into that tribe, there had to be some kind of solidarity. There had to be some sort of way to speak the same language. Maybe they didn't even speak the same language, but they were still females. So there still had to be this kind of, I think one of the reasons why women enjoy communicating, like they have coffee together, like, hey, let's catch up. Let's go down to Starbucks and just talk. Like that's the point of getting together, is to just talk. How many guys do you know right now where you go, hey dude, let's get together down at the Starbucks or whatever, and let's just talk. If somebody hit me, like a dude hit me up, I would think he got divorced, or like somebody died, or like something, or he's going to kill himself if I don't go talk to this dude. Because in general, guys don't, at least if my friends don't go and say, hey, Rollo, why don't we go down and just connect, man? It's not that. It's like, hey, let's go check out this band. Hey, let's go play this game. Hey, let's go fix this car. Hey, come and help me trailer my horses out of the fire zone. That kind of, like, there's a point to it for guys. Remember, men are more interested in things. Women are more interested in people. Okay, why would that innately be the thing? Well, because women rely on each other for support, for survival, for security, those kinds of things. So that, evolutionarily speaking, that would make sense that they would enjoy communication that much more. So why is it that they don't care about their problems? Well, it's not that women don't care about their problems. It's just that those problems tend to be the source of conversation, and the conversation is what's enjoyable. So like, I keep throwing this out there. I really, one of these days, I just got to show the video and just bite the bullet and get demonetized. But there's the it's not about the nail video, which is the girl with the nail in the forehead, and she's talking to the guy on the couch, and the guy wants to solve her problem because he's interested in the thing. What's the thing? It's the nail sticking out of her head. That's how do I solve the problem? Pull it out. Shut up. Let's go on with life. She doesn't want, it's not about the nail. And she'll get very upset that you don't listen to me. You don't listen. Well, we could take that nail out of your head and you would not have the problem. But see, the thing is the nail, the pain of the nail is the source of the reward. So that's why sometimes it's like, why do women enjoy indignation? Why don't they just want to solve the problem and be done with it and be happy and go on to the next thing? Because they don't think like you. Their brains are not, their architecture of their brains is different. They don't get off on the same things. They don't enjoy the same, intrinsically don't enjoy this. It's not that they don't enjoy all the same things. They do. Some human beings enjoy certain things, right? We all collectively like certain things, but there are gendered things that we have more interested in than otherwise. And those go back to usually what happened in our ancestral past. Gene Fu, thank you for the $20. One Man's Way again says beta dudes like, okay, I got to that one already. Corey Wayne. Okay. Thanks, Easy, for the $5 and the Corey Wayne shout out. There you go. Dum Dum Sucker says, I understand instinct to be functions that match conditions and modifies behavior, like urges. Okay. So how is it possible that instinct can match a learned or abstract concept such as wealth? Because wealth doesn't mean to an end. Because what is instinct really? Instinct is survival. So wealth might be, it's downstream from it for sure. It would be a means for survival. So the instinct is survival, or basic instincts. Let's just say survival is one of those. Sex is another one. I guess eating would be survival, but usually an abstract concept such as wealth is there's a lot you can do with it. So it can be for your pleasure. Pleasure is an instinct as well. So I think that when you talk about abstract concepts, like more complex things are, you'll find that instinct, emotion, and reason are all downstream from those abstract concepts. Bacon comment says, I don't fault women for taking the stupid guys. No, of course you don't, because that sometimes that's all they have available to them. And that's the conflict women go through. And Tommy Lahren is when they have to deal with balancing hypergamy when it's too late. That's really what the epiphany phase is about. Or hitting the wall. Remember when I did the wall episode? And so it's not about the physical aspect of the wall. Like, women can still look good at 33, really good at 33 if they play their cards right and they stay in shape and they have good habits and they good nutrition and blah blah blah. I've seen women who are 40 years old who win fitness, like they're in the masters category, but they look pretty damn good, right? Maybe not as good as they did when they were 22, but they still okay. Well, when women get to be 38, that's when they know, oh man, now I really better do something, and then it's already too late for them. But when women get into the epiphany phase, that's when they usually for the first time in their lives, they have to decide how to balance the hypergamous equation. And they realize that the alpha seed side that they enjoyed so much when they were in their 20s is not as when I say reward, it still is rewarding, but it is not as forthcoming, let's say. They're not as able to pursue that any longer. And so now they've got to pursue something else. They've got to find long-term security. That's why. Vince C says, thanks for the show, Rollo. You are welcome. You should check out how the Feminine Imperative is roasting Russell Brand for calling out music video by Cardi B. Okay, do I have to? You gave me $5. Do I have to? I heard Cardi B, if you look at Cardi B's ass long enough, it will turn you gay. Don't ask me where I heard that. Tao Rap says, keep it up. Thank you for the sticker. I like the stickers. Zoltan Nagy says, here they talk about giving women votes at ACC to the acceptable number of votes. According to the number of children, they say to incentivize making more babies. Is that a plausible future? No, because we live in a gynocentric social order and you will never see that happen. I don't think you'll ever see that happen. I'm just saying right now. Thomas Manure again says, Rollo, how about the studies which show premarital sex partners for women and divorce chances? Is this a correlation or a causality? Both. What is the validity? Again, go look at the episode I've already done about this. It's why a woman's sex partners count, or something to that effect. It's one of my old black and yellow thumbnails. Go look at that one. You want me to do another one? I'll be happy to do another one on that. Gene Fu says, Rollo, your ideas and concepts are the most leading research in this area. Other researchers concentrate on other areas of social, cultural, economic, male-female dynamics, including Peterson. You are the tip of the spear in this area. Well, thank you. I've been doing it a long time. I've been writing and I've been, let's just say, interested in this kind of stuff for at least 20 years now. Really, since certainly 2001. So 19 years, let's say 19 years I've been doing this. I've been on, if you consider me being on So Suave in 2002, then 18 years. Thank you. I try. And I think one of the reasons why I have been enduring, let's say, is because I'm not beholden to academia. I ask the questions that a lot of people with PhDs and letters behind their names either can't or won't ask. And I'm not saying that they're doing it maliciously. I'm just saying that maybe they're watching out for their backs, or their revenue and their well-being is wrapped up in them not turning over the rocks that I have turned over. One Man's Way gave me another $20. Thank you, man. You guys are killing me with this today. Sucker Free Gear says, Rollo, big fan. And is that a Real/Snake Pit Gibson. No, it is not. It is very nice. It's a custom job that I had done. It has an I should probably just show it to you at some point. It has a snake on the fretboard. It is, well, I guess it would be called mother of pearl, abalone shell. Had it done a while ago, actually back in 2002, matter of fact. Let's see. Yeah, well, it's funny you were asking. Either way, nice gear. Please do a rundown of your gear for us musician fans in the future. Well, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll go one better than that. You can hear some of the music that I have created with the guys that I've been playing with for almost a year now. If you watch the Patreon only show, I'm planning on doing it on Wednesday, unless something really big comes up, but I will do one a week. So if I do a Wednesday show on here, on the YouTube channel, you can be sure that I will do at least a 1 hour show on Patreon as a follow-up if I don't do Wednesday as the straight show. But if you go on there, you will not only hear I'll be happy to give you the breakdown of my rig, but I'll be happy to play you some samples, which I did on the one that I did on Thursday. And if you were a Patreon subscriber, you'd be able to hear that. Davey Furtado says, my wife's OnlyFans goes directly to support her boyfriend's traveling. She says, I'm so alpha, I don't need help. For feeling proud. Good for you, Davey. Ponderosa Bear says, I think talking about problems for women with men is like shit tests. Yeah, it is. But rather than testing competence, the testing if a guy cares about her well-being. And if you don't, it's not necessarily a bad thing, because if a woman is, remember, women imprint on the most dominant man that they know. Bear that in mind. I put that up already. Thank you very much. And last but not least, I think this was the last one. Thank you. Sam Bada, once again, is our moderator today. Thank you, Sam, for laying the band hammer or whatever. I'm trying to also, I like looking at the chat, but it can be very distracting. One of these days, I don't know if I'll do it on a Sunday, but maybe on a Wednesday, I'll just do an all chat episode and just like look at the chat, whether super chat or not. I'll just look at it and just answer questions or talk about things just like rapid fire. Throwaway 8080 says, thoughts about women who sell their virginity for money. Very curious how it relates to women's party and security years. Only in a global sexual marketplace can women get away with stuff like that. And you can sell virginity, but remember, a lot of that is just sort of dog whistle kind of stuff. Like it's bait. It's usually clickbait kind of stuff. Imagine this. Imagine you go like, oh man, I'm gonna have sex with a virgin. How much is that worth to you? Oh well, I've got a lot of money. I'm a real estate mogul. I've got $20,000 to just kick down. I know I would love to have sex with a virgin, right? It's just usually publicity stunts is what that is. I've had of the 43 women that I've been with, 2 of them were virgins. So it's like, to me, like I would say, I would advise against having sex with virgin women. And I go, wow, what do you mean? How could you possibly? Well, put it this way. Maybe I don't think I'm unique in this experience, but I think that when you have sex with a woman who is a virgin, they tend to imprint a little bit more significantly on you because you're their first, right? That's the one that they always are going to remember you by. And if something goes wrong or things don't work out, or maybe you're just like, God, this woman, she's crazy, right? I understand why the idea of premarital sex or the limitations, let's say religiously, from premarital sex are a thing because of that. And certainly in the past, you have sex with a woman for the first time. There's a very like, this is my first, this is the guy kind of thing. I think that, again, women, when you get in there, when you finally get the stick in the hole kind of thing, I think for women, it's a little bit more significant than it is for guys. I mean, emotionally speaking, let's just say, unless the guy's super feminized. But Anyways, that's it for today, guys. Thank you very much. We are at 2:13 and I am not going to 3 hours. I have other responsibilities to do, to take care of, and it smells a lot like smoke in here today. So wish me luck. Remember, Patreon is open. I've got some new announcements on my Patreon. There's a new essay on the rationalmale.com. Go check that out. And if you have not subscribed to this, and why wouldn't you? There's so many people watching today. We got up to 2,200 people today. That was great. So anyways, thank you again. I will be back on Wednesday. If there's something really, if the world explodes, I'll probably do another show here, but I'm planning on doing Wednesday's show on Patreon. I worked out the bugs. We're ready to go. So if you're not a Patreon subscriber, please consider doing that. Just for the basic podcast or the video stream, it's only $5. It's the lowest tier I have. So if you want archives, it's going to be $10. I'm going to do a private counseling thing that's going to be $150, but it's going to be limited to a certain amount of guys for a certain amount of time. That's coming up soon. So I'm trying to push Patreon a little bit more because of, social justice and all this other crap that's going on right now. So thank you very much. I will see you guys again on Wednesday. Thank you.